2019. What a year. What happened in 2019?
My name is Emma Tobias. Goodbye. She ever finished City of Trash Bones?
This has been an unboxing.
Y'all.
Lots of stuff. I don't feel like talking about it. Today is about books and my favorite books I read in 2019. I plan on doing my least favorite books I read in 2019 because that's fun too, but we're focusing on the positive. 2020 approaches quickly, and I am very excited about 2020, not for any good reason. I mean, it's all very arbitrary, but for the fact that the first 4 days of January are my favorite days. It's when I feel most productive and excited about the future, until I realize seasonal depression will kick in after the holiday sparkle has worn off and the sun has lost its potency for a good 3 months. But we're focused on 2019 still, and the seasonal depression I have in this year. So, I have 9 favorite books I read this year. I think I consumed most of them via audio. Most of the books I read this year I consumed via audio. Audio is my pal, am a friend. Am a friend to audiobooks, and they are a friend to me. Let's get started. My first favorite read that I read this year in no particular order is Catch and Kill, Live Spies and a Conspiracy to Protect Predators by Ronan Farrow. This is a nonfiction novel, an expose, a look at Ronan Farrow's journalism and breaking the Harvey Weinstein story, or being one of the people to break the Harvey Weinstein story, as well as the Matt Lauer story, or be a part of that conversation as well. It's a book about the Me Too movement. And at first I was hesitant because I was like, oh, this white guy is gonna talk about the Me Too movement, and that's weird, and I don't know how I feel about it. But I am a fan of Ronan Farrow. He tends to be a real advocate towards women, and this book really showcased that. It's about a man who is tirelessly working to lift the voices of victims, and it was really interesting. It was interesting and really hard, but I appreciated it quite a lot, and I think that if you want to learn more about that story, want to learn more about cover-ups, want to learn about systems that keep people oppressed in a specific way, like media, this is definitely, I think, a good read for that. My next pick is sort of a love or hate for people, and that's Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. While I think this book failed in its overall message of what it was trying to do, like showcase systems that live at these prestigious places like Yale, and how those systems are used to protect white men and shut down everyone else. And I don't think it was done great. I think it was trying to do something and it was done sloppily. I did really enjoy the book. I wanted to say that because I wanted to recognize that it does have flaws and a fundamental flaw. But while reading it, I really enjoyed it. I listened to an audio. It was a great audiobook. I liked the world building for what it was. I liked Alex Stern. I liked how dark it was, and how it seemed like Leigh Bardugo had a very soft hand in writing about incredibly difficult subject matter. So yeah, it was a favorite, but definitely a complicated favorite. I'm hoping that once the adaptation comes out on Amazon, some of that stuff is handled better, or in the sequel. And I read a lot of Leigh Bardugo this year, and this was the only book for me that really struck a chord. So, Ninth House. Next, a favorite is The Rules of Magic by Alice Hoffman, another magical related book. This is the prequel to Practical Magic, a book that I found really disappointing because I love the movie so much. But this follows the aunts that you see in Practical Magic and their stories. It's part historical fiction and part magic and part a family story and love stories. It was really beautiful. I can't express this enough. I don't know a lot of people on BookTube who have read this book, so I really want to showcase it. But it was great. I mean, really, really, really great. When I think about a book that balances really beautiful storytelling and writing with strong characters and an impactful world building, this is sort of my go-to now. I loved it so much, and I'm excited because I think they're adapting this to a show on HBO. The next book on my list is With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. This book is so incredibly gorgeous. It's a book that, I have such a soft spot for people and writers who can write about food beautifully. And this book, not only does Elizabeth Acevedo write about food in this gorgeous, lush way, but she has these really strong, vulnerable characters and moments with these characters. It's just a crazy, lovely, beautiful book. And the audiobook is like otherworldly. I loved it so much. I feel like everyone who's read this book loves it, but like everyone should also read it. It doesn't have that many ratings on Goodreads for what it should have, in my opinion. Next, I read Kid Gloves, 9 Months of Careful Chaos by Lucy Nicely. Lucy Nicely is my favorite writer. I have figured this out as I've gone on. She's an amazing illustrator and comic book artist, but also like a really great writer and storyteller. Every book that I've read by her has just been so like a gut punch. It's been really funny and cute, but also like, I'm like, oh my gosh. I love this. This is about her pregnancy when she was having her son. And it's really educational and sad and heartbreaking and beautiful and heartwarming. And it was just really great. And I think everyone should read anything that she does, but particularly this was, I think, her best work. Next, The Last of August by Charlotte Holmes. This is the second book in the Charlotte Holmes series.
Brittany Cavallaro, not Charlotte Holmes.
I also read the third book this year. I don't know what it is about this series that I love so much. I find them to be just really sweeping and interesting, and it has like two kind of horrible main characters who are really complicated and you don't really like them, and I have such a love for characters that you don't really like, especially female characters that you're not supposed to really like. I love this story. It feels like teenagers put into really precarious situations, and it is a little fantastical, but the impacts always feel really realistic and hard and stressful and difficult. I really enjoyed this. I really liked the mystery that went through this book. It was interesting and it unfolded in an interesting way, and I love these audiobooks. I think that's a big part of it too. Next, I have Eliza and Her Monsters, which I know like everyone has already read this book, but I read it this year and I really loved it. I don't have a lot to say about it. I have a vlog where I'm like reading this book and having so many different feelings about the male character, Wallace, who I ended up hating. But this book was beautiful. It was probably the only book this year that I read in one day, so that automatically, I think, gives it a bump. Next, we're gonna go to two books that I feel like are gonna be on everybody's favorites. Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This book is fantastic and funny and smart and cute and lovely and heartbreaking and heartwarming, and I loved it. And I read it in the springtime, and it just kind of fit in with my desire for things to be more hopeful. It was great. I mean, it's a great book. Loved it. Everyone loves it for a reason. And then finally, Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about this book too. I don't think I would have loved it if I had read it just as a physical book, but audio, it was amazing. I think this book, in the same way that The Rules of Magic really works for me, it's beautifully written, but also the characters feel so fully realized, and it's just really heartbreaking and cuts to the core. And I'm really excited about the TV show. It's gonna be great. So those are my favorite books I read this year. Please feel free to give me your thoughts. I would love to know them. I'm also gonna make a least favorites because I had some actual books that I hated and really didn't like, and that's fun content, right? So have a lovely day.